Welcome to Oracle of Confidence. You've been taught that vulnerability is weakness, that showing emotion is fragility, that admitting fear is incompetence, that asking for help is failure. So you built a fortress, you hid the struggles, you wore the mask, you performed confidence while feeling terrified inside. And here's what's devastating. This fortress that's supposed to protect you is actually imprisoning you. It's preventing real connection. It's preventing love. It's preventing authenticity. It's preventing the very thing you need most. Research from UCLA shows that people who actively suppress emotion have a 40% higher risk of serious health issues. Your fortress isn't protecting you, it's killing you. Meet Grace, 32 years old, high achiever, successful career. On paper, impressive. In reality, lonely. Grace had built the ultimate fortress. Never let anyone see struggle. Always have the answer. Always be strong. Always be together. Grace was so good at this performance that people envied Grace. People wanted to be like Grace. Nobody knew that Grace was struggling with anxiety. Nobody knew about the depression. Nobody knew that Grace felt like a fraud who would be exposed as incapable any day. Grace was performing a version of strength that felt good to everyone except Grace. You know this experience. The exhaustion of maintaining a persona that isn't real. The isolation of being admired for something you're not. The desperation of wanting connection while being too afraid to be truly seen. Grace tried to break the fortress alone, decided to be more vulnerable. In a meeting with colleagues, Grace mentioned anxiety, shared a struggle. The response was immediate and devastating. Pity, awkwardness, change in how people treated Grace. Suddenly, Grace wasn't the high achiever anymore. Grace was the one with anxiety. The vulnerability attempt resulted in being categorized and diminished. Grace learned, vulnerability in the wrong context gets weaponized. Sharing struggle with people who aren't worthy of that vulnerability is a betrayal of yourself. Grace retreated back into the fortress, more convinced than ever that vulnerability was dangerous. Grace tried selectively vulnerable relationships, found a therapist, decided to be real only in therapy, shared genuine struggles in that 1 hour per week, rest of the week, maintained the fortress. The result was cognitive dissonance. You can't be authentic in 1 hour per week and inauthentic the other 167 hours per week without developing a fractured self. Grace felt like two people, one true person in therapy, one false person everywhere else. The compartmentalization worked for about 3 months. Then it collapsed. Grace had a panic attack at work. The fortress cracked publicly. Grace felt more exposed and more ashamed than before. The failure taught Grace, you can't selectively be vulnerable. Either you're integrated as a person or you're living a lie. The breaking point. Grace's closest friend found out about the anxiety through someone else instead of hearing it from Grace directly. Felt betrayed by Grace. Said, I thought we were close. You shared nothing real with me. This moment was devastating because Grace realized the fortress that was supposed to protect relationships had destroyed them. Grace had no real intimacy, no real connection, had the appearance of success while being completely alone. Grace had built the perfect life while living the perfect lie. Everything changed when Grace learned that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the foundation of real connection, real love, and real power. Grace's transformation came from reframing vulnerability completely. Phase 1. Vulnerability Audit, Weeks 1 to 2. Grace identified where the fortress blocked connection, hiding struggles in relationships, overperforming at work, playing roles in family. She realized she was hiding everywhere. The question shifted. Was this protection or avoidance of real life? Phase 2. Selective safe sharing, weeks 3 to 4. She chose one trusted friend and shared anxiety, depression, and imposter syndrome. The response was empathy and reciprocity. This showed her that vulnerability with the right person builds intimacy, not exposure. Phase 3. Expanding real relationships. Month 2. Grace became real only with people who proved trustworthy. This created a support system the fortress had prevented. People who understood her anxiety, normalized self-doubt, and valued the real Grace, not the performed one. Phase 4. Professional vulnerability, month 3+. She reframed vulnerability at work as admitting limits, asking for help, and saying, "I don't know." Authenticity replaced bluffing. Respect increased, and others felt permission to be honest. Within 5 months, her life shifted. Anxiety remained, but isolation decreased. She moved from performance to connection. Her confidence grew, rooted in being known and accepted. Dropping the facade freed energy for growth. The risk isn't vulnerability itself, but poor discernment. With trustworthy people, it creates depth. With untrustworthy ones, it creates exposure. The skill is choosing carefully. Be real with the worthy, boundaried with others. In environments of performance, authenticity stands out. Grace's career improved because people preferred the real version. Professional authenticity means acknowledging limits and staying curious, not oversharing. The fortress feels safe, but becomes a prison. Real protection comes from connection and community. Grace's anxiety eased less through isolation and more through shared understanding. You're currently performing a version of yourself while slowly dying inside from the isolation. You're achieving externally while failing internally. You're admired for something you're not. And the path to real confidence, real love, real connection requires something that feels terrifying. Being seen, not by everyone, but by the people worthy of seeing you. Real confidence is the confidence that comes from being fully known and fully accepted. Performance is fragile. Authenticity is bulletproof. As Brené Brown says, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection and the path to change. Subscribe to Oracle of Confidence for connection and authenticity. Comment below, "I'm ready to be real," and identify one person worthy of your real self. Have one conversation this week where you're genuinely vulnerable with that person. This is where connection starts.